On this episode of Humble History, we're going to talk about the most successful slave uprising of all time, the Haitian Revolution. Let's get into it right now. Let me take you to a part of a tiny island in the Caribbean Sea called Saint-Domingue, what we today call Haiti. Saint-Domingue was then a French colony, with many settlers from France. But the French were a minority, with the vast majority made up of Africans, taken from the continent and thrust into slavery. Saint-Domingue was the most profitable slave colony in the world. It produced massive sugar, an expensive commodity at the time, that made France incredible wealth. This tiny piece of a tiny island made more for France than the entire Indian colony would make for England. This profitability was only eclipsed by the brutality of the colony. The enslaved people were worked as machines, with almost no relief and absolutely no rights. There was so much death that the French had to replenish their workers at a pace of 20,000 people a year. 20,000 Africans would be transported to the island annually. This brutality led to many rebellions, but all of them had been unsuccessful. France, a major superpower at the time, was good at quelling revolts in its colonies. What France was not good at, however, was stopping revolts in its homeland. In 1789, the French Revolution began and the French government was turned upside down. This chaos eventually span out to all of its colonies. At this time, the black population in Saint-Domingue saw their opportunity and organized a slave revolt. In 1791, they burned plantations all over the colony, and the Haitian Revolution exploded. One of the most important leaders of the revolution was Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint was born into slavery, but he had an uncommon life. When he was a child, he was so sickly that his parents had not expected him to live. He was so frail that the people had nicknamed him the Little Stick. His health eventually recovered, and as an adult, he served as a steward of livestock. A strange position for a slave. This station gave him skills in administration and management, as well as experience in dealing with the white population, both in the plantations and in the cities. Finally, perhaps the most unusual attribute for Toussaint was that he was literate. He read writings such as Caesar's commentaries, as well as volumes on the East and West Indies. These readings would have exposed him to ideas of economy, politics, warfare, and the connection between the three. During the revolution, Toussaint quickly proved himself to be an effective military leader. His relentless pursuit for liberty made him popular among the rebels. He shaped the slave revolt into a competent rebel army that were able to strike blows to the French, demanding an end to slavery. France sent reinforcements, but they were no longer the only European power involved. Both Spain and England sent troops to claim a piece of the most profitable colony for themselves. Toussaint leverages this opportunity and allies with the Spanish. This alliance proves to be too much for the French. So to get the rebel army on their side, the French capitulate and abolish slavery. Toussaint's troops rejoin the French side and push out the other forces. The rebel army was victorious. The people of Saint-Domingue are free, and they begin their lives as French citizens. Throughout all of this, Toussaint is seen as the main leader of this success. After emancipation, his power only continues to grow. First, he becomes the commander-in-chief of the Saint-Domingue military, and later, he amasses enough power that he declares himself governor for life. At this point of the story, you might be expecting Toussaint, with all his new power, to get rid of the plantation system and push the French off, declaring Saint-Domingue independent. And this may be what many of his supporters on the island expected as well. Toussaint, however, does neither of these things and acts in a different direction. Firstly, he continues the plantation system with the major alteration of compensating the workers. Although not everyone is pleased to having to work back at the plantations, Toussaint believes that maintaining the sugar plantations are necessary for Saint-Domingue's economy. Secondly, he continues his relation with France, believing that Saint-Domingue is stronger with the French than without them. However, he creates a new constitution for Saint-Domingue, which grants the colony autonomous power. So while France would send representatives to the island, the real power lied with Toussaint and his black generals. This plan worked for a while. Saint-Domingue now had liberty without losing its wealth. It was the best of both worlds, until something happened that would change the course of the revolution. Napoleon Bonaparte comes to power in France. Napoleon's arrival undoes most of the success of the French Revolution. Napoleon instates a military dictatorship and begins a conquest over Europe with plans of expanding French territory in the Americas. He decides to get funding for this expensive conquest by turning Saint-Domingue back into the most profitable slave colony. For this, he sends his brother-in-law, General Leclerc, as governor of Saint-Domingue, with the orders of declaring special laws on the island. Although Leclerc never announced his plans for slavery, the black population quickly read the writings on the wall, and many took up protests and insurrections in different parts of the island, demanding that the French leave Saint-Domingue. Although Toussaint is not against the insurrections, he does not lead these protests. And even though he sees the risk of the special laws, he still believes that Saint-Domingue is better off with the French. He stalls, looking for a win-win solution. However, the insurrections only continue to increase, and his popularity plummets. He is outshined by one of his generals, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Dessalines, like Toussaint, was born on the island and received his post during the Revolution. He was the most famous of Toussaint's generals. He was no diplomat, but he was renowned for his military genius, and some believed he was even a better general than Toussaint. He governed the west of Saint-Domingue with a rod of iron, and he had very little sympathy for reconciling with the white population. Dessalines became the people's favorite when he openly called for fighting against the French, while Toussaint was still vacillating. Meanwhile, the insurrections overwhelmed the French. Leclerc fails his missions and calls off the special laws. However, faith in Toussaint had been lost by the black population, including Dessalines. Fearing that Toussaint had become a liability, Dessalines works with Leclerc and has Toussaint arrested. As he is arrested, Toussaint gives the famous lines, "In overthrowing me, you have done no more than cut down the trunk of the tree of black liberty in Saint-Domingue. It will spring back from the roots, for they are numerous and deep. Toussaint is taken to France, where he dies in prison. Back in Saint-Domingue, General Leclerc dies of yellow fever and is replaced by the much worse Rochambeau. Shortly after his arrival, Rochambeau massacres many blacks and peoples of color indiscriminately and in cruel ways, including burying them alive and boiling them in molasses, to name a few. He secures 20,000 French reinforcements and openly begins a campaign to re-establish slavery. At this point, Dessalines had secured his place of leader of the Black Army, and he was ready and willing to return Rochambeau's favors in kind. The battles between the two led to the most brutal part of the Haitian Revolution. Describing these moments, the historian C.L.R. James writes, "We cannot describe that war in detail. It was a war not so much of armies as of the people. Leclerc had proposed a war of extermination, and Rochambeau waged it." No matter how gruesome the battles became, the black people on the island were determined to maintain their liberty. We have many records from French witnesses detailing acts of bravery among common black people in the face of Rochambeau's atrocities. One example of this: a man remembers seeing boys sentenced to be burnt alive. He notes that one of them, a 19-year-old boy, musters courage and exclaims, "You don't know how to die. See how to die," before placing himself in a fire without uttering a groan as he is consumed by the flames. Another one witnesses the wife of a black leader sentenced to be hung, saying to her husband, "You do not know how sweet it is to die for liberty." Refusing any executioner, she takes the rope and hangs herself. A final example for now: a mother to be executed along with her daughters gives courage. "Be glad you will not be the mothers of slaves." No matter the cost, the people of Saint-Domingue refused any terms short of liberty. With the people's support, Dessalines' troops are able to hold off Rochambeau's army. This lasted long enough for the British Navy to block further reinforcements. Napoleon's actions in Europe had put him in conflict with the British, who were now not only blocking French ships, but were also arming Dessalines' men. After several horrific battles that ended in Dessalines' victory, Rochambeau capitulates and flees Saint-Domingue. The white French on the island are massacred by Dessalines and even by the average people who fear counter-revolution. However, Dessalines does ensure the safety of non-French, such as American and British whites, as well as French doctors, priests, and skilled workers. These were also the people that Toussaint had asked France to send more of. In the end, Dessalines declares Saint-Domingue independent and makes himself emperor, with Dessalines renaming this new country to Haiti, the name that the native inhabitants had called the island. And indeed, Haiti after the revolution was no paradise. It had many economic, social, and political shortcomings. But at the end of the day, the new country had what it wanted most. It had liberty. The revolution was important not only to Haiti, but to the entire world. And many historians argue that the success of the revolution shaped the world for the centuries to come. For one, many historians argue that Napoleon's total failure in Haiti was one of the major factors for giving up his dreams of expanding France's territory in North America. This includes selling Louisiana, a French colony, to the United States. Thus, the Haitian Revolution brought two consequences: the beginning of a continental United States, as well as the end of Napoleonic rule in the Americas. The revolution also served as inspiration for many enslaved people and abolitionists as they fought for liberty in the Caribbean as well as North and South America. Later on in the 20th century, we see many Africans using Haiti and the revolution as inspiration as they fought against colonialism and the independence of their respective countries. And of course, it holds a special place for Haitians today, with them celebrating each new year on January 1st as the day of their independence. That is it for this episode of Humble History. Comment below and join the conversation. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, it helps the channel a lot. And if you want to see future episodes, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. For the dedicated fans who have been following our channel and want to support us, I encourage you to become a patron of Humble History through patreon.com. The links will be in the description. You can help us with your contributions, and we thank you for your support in helping Humble History grow. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. I've been your narrator, Adam Salu. This episode was co-produced by Timbal Nagasha, and our cover art was designed by Wayne Digital Arts. On behalf of Humble History, we'll see you on the next episode.